Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Rosie here, and I play Dead by Daylight, so you don't have to. So just a brief follow-up from yesterday, 2 days ago, whenever the fuck we made that other video. I think it was yesterday. I don't even fucking know anymore, man. Uh, but the only perk from the, dev thing we kind of slacked on was crowd control. And the fact that I said, well, they could give it a time extension again, and I was like, I don't really know what to do with it. So that just kind of got me thinking again. I thought a little bit more about it and what could we do for crowd control? Now, obviously, crowd control is never going to be good for a variety of reasons. Number one, it's a hex, very limited to hex builds, RNG. The survivors are the ones that actually trigger it by vaulting. They have to perform a rush vault themselves to actually trigger it. But there are lots of situations where you can force them to do that, or they get hit. So like, it's not the worst activation condition it could possibly have in the entire world. But I was thinking, how could we actually buff this perk? Since it was the one that we did kind of slack on. And I think I have come up with the best possible solution for this perk. Like, what is, aside from a total rework, and where they may give it to something completely different, what is the best thing that we can do with this here effect? And I think I got it. Now, obviously, in terms of a tiering system, I don't know how this would work. So that's definitely an argument for it not being this. But the ideal thing for this perk, I truly believe, is once a vault has been fast vaulted over, that vault is blocked until the totem is cleansed. I think that is something that they could actually look into with this perk. Maybe you put in something where it's like if the survivor loses a health state, then that one survivor can vault the locations for the next 30, 25, 20 seconds, and that could be like how the tiering system on it works. But all in all, I think the window should just be permablocked, because think about it. This is a hex, for one. I truly believe the biggest issue with hexes right now is that their power level is not high enough to justify the fact that they are a hex. So hexes inherently should just have much stronger effects than they currently have. Now, obviously, hex stacking, there's a lot of hexes that kind of protect, like running full hex loadouts and stuff. So I do believe there is a little bit of capping in there somewhere. However, I don't think that this is it. I think if you were to make it, I mean, they could go 2 minutes and maybe that would be enough. Like, they could go like 100, 110, 120 seconds. But I guess that would be maybe that would be enough in terms of a time extension, double it. But like, if you were to just make it so like that the location is perma-blocked for every survivor, you would slowly, over the course of the match, clog up the board the longer that the hex stays in play. So like, Shack wouldn't be usable, like a lot of the Jungle Gym tiles wouldn't be usable. It would slowly, over time, just clog up the board. And the amount of pressure that you have in Chase could easily force pallets to get burned down much easier, etc., etc. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do with that potential. The amount of 4v1 game you could have, where it's like, okay, they vault the Jungle Gym, now that's blocked, but instead of chasing, I'm going to go pressure something else to maybe loop around and come back. Then they'll have to burn the pallet a little bit quicker, and I know a little bit more about what's going on around the board. But the obvious argument there is, yeah, as soon as it's cleansed, everything goes away, which, yes. But it's like, think about a build that you could do with that. Like, you type in, like, if you were to do crowd control, let me see, that's the title of the build. If you were to do a crowd control build here, okay, you got crowd control. You would obviously want Ruin in there, because Ruin can be okay if it works. Ruin, Undying, and then last slot would be something like Pentimento. So that you'd have this. You would have this as your build right there. You got 2 hexes for gen control, 1 to protect the first initial one to avoid some bad RNG in the early, and then crowd control for the initial chase kind of stuff that kind of goes in there. Obviously, this probably wouldn't be anything super good or super special, but in terms of like making crowd control the best that it possibly could be in a build like this, that the hex would it maximizes the time in play. You would get the most amount of cloggage on the board, and that cloggage could lead to some downs. Now, obviously, or I mean, if you could also go double chase if you would like to get, instead of ruin, you could go blood favor, because it doesn't ask you, the pallets aren't answered there. Where is this blood favor? Here it is. I don't even know how you. I've just started working with this here, but you could put like blood favor in there, and that way over, and then put Pentimento back in over, or some variation on this format here, where now you have a little bit less gens, but a little bit more chase. Obviously, again, I don't think this is all that good. Or you could even just sub out Undying and go for the full 4 hex and just see where the RNG takes you. And then you get the Ruin in there, where then you do. So it's like there's mixes and matches. Right now, I just don't think crowd control has a place even in hex builds, because just the timing is a little bit too small. But a buff like that would permanently start clogging up the map and clogging up the vaults, creating some dead zones. Maybe you could use like the crowd control would be really useful at like if you were on like Dead Dog Saloon or something, and you can clog up that main building extremely early. That can be transformative to how you approach that. If that hex stays in the game and that main building gen becomes a lot less safe if everything is just perma-clogged, right? Which incentivizes them to get off the gens and actually go look for the totems, which if they're in a build like this, that means they're completely playing your game and it gives you more time to kind of get rolling. Now, again, obviously, I'm not ever saying that this is meta or anywhere close to it, but in terms of what they're going to do with crowd control, that is probably their best bet. A massive time extension, or because 2 minutes would be good, I guess, but I would rather it just be permanent until the hex is gone. But we'll see what they end up doing with this one. That was the one perk I wanted to come back and give a follow-up on, simply because of the fact that I didn't really have a feasible idea in my head of what they should do with it until I started thinking about it just a little bit harder there. It wasn't one where you could look at it. Now, I did say time extension in that video, but what exactly would a time extension do, and how long would it necessarily need to be? If this time extension is like 30 seconds, this isn't going to see any more play than it already does. But that all being said, that's all I got to say about this one, lads. I'm getting the hell out of here. GG's.